Good morning slash afternoon slash evening, everyone. Have you ever felt like life is just too much to handle, like the weight of stress, worries, and uncertainty is pressing down on you? Maybe you've been praying for a breakthrough, but all you see are more obstacles. If that's you, I have good news today. God is about to turn your stress into a huge blessing. Throughout the Bible, we see time and time again how God allows his people to go through trials, not to break them, but to bless them. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, and sold into slavery. But what seemed like the worst time of his life was actually the setup for his greatest blessing. He went from the prison to the palace because God had a plan greater than his stress. Maybe you're feeling trapped in a difficult season right now, but let me remind you, God sees what you're going through. He hears your prayers, He knows your struggles, and He is working behind the scenes to turn that stress into something greater than you could ever imagine. The key is to trust Him even when you don't understand. Stress may try to make you anxious, make you doubt, or make you give up. But instead of letting stress control you, surrender it to God. Because the same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who fed thousands with just a few loaves and fish, and the same God who raised the dead is the God who is working in your life today. God is not finished with your story. What looks like stress today may be the very thing God uses to bring you into your breakthrough tomorrow. Hold on, keep the faith, and get ready because God is about to turn your stress into a huge blessing. Stress is not permanent because life itself is constantly changing, evolving, and unfolding according to divine timing. What feels overwhelming today may soon become a distant memory, replaced by newfound strength and wisdom. Stress is often tied to circumstances, emotions, or challenges that seem insurmountable in the moment, but nothing in life remains the same forever. Seasons shift, obstacles pass, and difficulties transform into opportunities for growth. When stress grips the heart and mind, it can feel endless, but in reality, it is only temporary. Every storm has an end point, and just as dark clouds eventually clear, the weight of stress will lift in due time. The human spirit is resilient, capable of enduring hardships and emerging stronger on the other side. Faith plays a significant role in understanding that stress does not define destiny, nor does it dictate the future. God's plan is greater than any momentary struggle, and His grace is sufficient to carry anyone through the toughest times. Looking back on past hardships often reveals how temporary they truly were, even when they felt unbearable in the moment. Challenges come and go, but God remains constant, providing strength and guidance through every trial. Holding on to faith and perspective allows stress to lose its grip, knowing that what seems overwhelming now will one day be a testimony of victory. Even the longest nights eventually give way to morning, and every hardship carries the promise of eventual relief. Trusting that stress is not permanent allows space for hope, perseverance, and the expectation of better days ahead. God uses pressure to refine and strengthen you because he sees beyond the present moment and understands what is needed to shape you for the future. Pressure is not meant to break you, but to mold you into the person he has called you to be. Just as gold is purified through fire, the weight of trials and stress burns away weaknesses, insecurities, and doubts, leaving behind a stronger and more refined version of yourself. Growth does not come from comfort, but from enduring challenges that push you beyond your limits. Every moment of pressure is an opportunity for God to build endurance, perseverance, and character within you. Without resistance, muscles do not grow. Without pressure, diamonds are never formed. God allows difficulties not to punish, but to prepare, not to harm, but to heal, not to overwhelm, but to uplift. Through every challenge, he is stretching your capacity, increasing your faith, and deepening your dependence on him. Pressure is often a sign that something greater is being produced within you, even when it feels unbearable in the moment. The weight you carry today will become the strength you stand on tomorrow. Just as an olive must be pressed to produce oil and grapes must be crushed to create fine wine, the trials you face are extracting something valuable from within you. God is refining your patience, sharpening your wisdom, and strengthening your ability to withstand future storms. The more intense the pressure, the greater the transformation. And what once felt like a burden will soon become a blessing. He does not allow anything without a purpose. And every ounce of pressure is preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. The fire of adversity does not destroy, it purifies, strengthens, and positions you for the destiny God has ordained for you. The trials you endure are not in vain. They are the tools God is using to build resilience, faith, and a testimony that will inspire others. Every trial has a divine purpose because nothing happens by accident in God's plan. Every hardship, setback, and challenge is orchestrated to serve a greater good, even when it is difficult to understand in the moment. Trials are not meant to destroy, but to develop, not to weaken, but to strengthen, not to punish, but to prepare. God allows difficulties as part of his divine process to mold, shape, and equip for the purpose he has designed. Every trial carries lessons that build character, perseverance, and faith, refining the heart and mind to align with His will. What may seem like a roadblock is often a redirection, a way for God to lead towards something greater that would not have been reached otherwise. Pain has a way of teaching lessons that comfort never could, and struggles produce wisdom, patience, and endurance that prepare for greater responsibilities ahead. God does not waste any experience. Every tear, every disappointment, and every challenge is being used to write a story of victory. Faith is tested in adversity, and it is through trials that trust in God deepens, dependence on His strength grows, and understanding of His power expands. Just as gold must go through fire to be purified, faith must go through trials to be strengthened, ensuring that it is unshakable in the face of future storms. Trials often serve as the foundation upon which blessings are built, positioning for breakthroughs that could not have been attained otherwise. Moments of struggle are often the birthing ground for transformation, ushering in growth, wisdom, and the capacity to handle greater levels of blessing. Faith over fear is a choice that requires trusting God, even when circumstances seem overwhelming, uncertain, or impossible to overcome. Fear thrives in the unknown, in the moments when control feels lost, and in situations that appear too difficult to handle. But faith is the antidote, the unwavering belief that God is in control, that his promises are true, and that his power is greater than any obstacle. Trusting God in difficult moments does not mean ignoring fear. It means refusing to let fear dictate decisions, emotions, or actions. It is choosing to stand firm on His word, even when doubt tries to creep in. Fear whispers lies, telling you that you are alone, that the situation is hopeless, that things will never change. But faith speaks truth, reminding you that God is always present, that nothing is impossible for him, and that he is working all things together for good. Faith is not about having all the answers, it is about believing that God does. It is about surrendering control and allowing him to lead, even when the path is unclear. In the Bible, countless stories illustrate how faith in God brought miraculous breakthroughs in the face of overwhelming fear. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind them, fear told them they were trapped. But faith in God's power split the sea and made a way where there was none. When David stood before Goliath, fear said he was too small, too weak, too inexperienced, but faith reminded him that God's strength was greater than any giant. When the disciples were caught in a storm, fear convinced them that they would drown, but faith in Jesus' presence calmed the winds and waves. God does not call his people to live in fear, but to walk in faith, trusting that he will provide, protect, and guide through every challenge. Fear limits, but faith liberates. Fear paralyzes, but faith propels forward. Fear sees obstacles, but faith sees opportunities. Difficult moments are not a sign of God's absence, they are an invitation to lean into his presence, to trust in his wisdom, and to believe in his ability to turn every trial into a testimony. Faith does not require seeing the entire picture, it simply requires taking the next step, believing that God will illuminate the way. When faced with uncertainty, worry, or adversity, the decision must be made to trust God over fear, to believe his promises over doubts, and to rest in his peace rather than panic and anxiety. Every difficult moment is an opportunity to grow in faith, to deepen reliance on God, and to witness his power at work. Walking by faith means acknowledging fear, but refusing to bow to it, knowing that God is always faithful, always present, and always working behind the scenes. Fear may come, but it does not have to stay, because faith in God will always be greater, stronger, and victorious. God's timing is perfect because he sees the full picture while human perspective is limited to the present moment. Waiting can be difficult, especially when prayers seem unanswered and breakthrough feels delayed. But God is never late. Every season has a purpose, and every moment of waiting is part of his divine plan. His delays are not denials. They are preparations for something greater. When things do not happen as expected, it is easy to feel discouraged. But faith requires trusting that God knows exactly when and how to bring blessings into reality. His ways are higher, his wisdom is infinite, and his love is unfailing. The timing of a blessing is just as important as the blessing itself. A premature blessing can be overwhelming, while a perfectly timed blessing is sustainable and fulfilling. God does not withhold good things, but ensures they arrive at the right time, in the right way, and under the right conditions. Just as a seed must go through seasons of growth before it bears fruit, every promise of God unfolds according to his schedule, not human expectations. Waiting is not wasted time. It is a period of preparation, refinement, and spiritual development. In the waiting season, God is working behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, strengthening faith, and positioning everything for the perfect moment. The Bible is filled with examples of God's timing being far better than human plans. Abraham and Sarah waited years for the promised child. Joseph endured trials before stepping into his destiny. And David was anointed as king long before he took the throne. Each of them experienced delays that seemed frustrating, but in hindsight, every moment was necessary for their growth and ultimate purpose. Trusting in God's timing means surrendering control, letting go of impatience, and believing that he knows best. It requires faith to rest in the truth that what is meant for you will not pass you by. No delay, setback, or obstacle can stop what God has already ordained. His blessings are never rushed, and his promises never fail. The waiting season is a time to develop trust, increase patience, and grow in faith. It is a time to prepare for what is coming, knowing that God is faithful to complete what he has started. What seems like a delay is actually divine positioning, ensuring that when the blessing arrives, it will be greater than expected. When doubt tries to creep in, remember that God is never early, never late, but always on time. Holding on to faith during the waiting season allows peace to replace anxiety, confidence to replace worry, and expectation to replace discouragement. What God has for you is coming, and it will arrive at the exact moment he has ordained. Trusting his timing means embracing the process, believing in his plan, and knowing that he is never wrong. No matter how long it takes, no matter how impossible it seems, God's timing is always perfect, and your blessing is on the way.